how to review and plan for the new year. Every year, across 365 days, we get to have the joy of being productive, the freedom to be generous, the freedom to connect, and the freedom to fly. In this year, events came and went, experiences came and went. But one thing you will definitely carry forward is the learning you had, the principles that worked. So think about the key events in the year in the following 6 priority areas of your life across the many months. Write it down. In the area of physical well-being, perhaps you had an illness, perhaps you became healthier through many activities, perhaps you pushed yourself. From the key events of this year, what were the principles that worked and which will you take forward into the next year? In the area of emotional well-being, perhaps you connected more with your family members, perhaps there was a separation, perhaps there was an addition to the family. From the key events of this year, what were the principles that worked and which will you take forward into the next year? In the area of professional well-being, maybe you got a promotion, maybe the office politics got to you, maybe you started your own venture, maybe your investments this year worked well. From the key events of this year, what were the principles that worked and which will you take forward into the next year? In the area of social well-being, perhaps you connected with your friends, perhaps you drifted apart, perhaps you devoted a lot of time to social causes and contributed to society, perhaps you did not. From the key events of this year, what were the principles that worked and which will you take forward into the next year? In the area of intellectual and spiritual well-being, maybe you invested time, effort, and money in sharpening your skills and knowing more. Maybe you found your spiritual path. Maybe you continued your spiritual practices. Maybe you did not. From the key events of this year, what were the principles that worked and which will you take forward into the next year? As the end of the year approaches, we get to have a unique view. A view that helps us to review and take forward our learning. The flowers of our learning from this year are ready to be sprinkled onto the next year. The seeds of our learning are ready to be sowed into the fertile soil of the new year as plants in the 6 areas, that is physical, emotional, professional, social, intellectual, and spiritual well-being. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So, your plan for the new year will include actions based on principles, changes required in your environment, and people who support your plan. The new year can be happy only when you are happy. Happy you in the new year.